This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac. 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha is heard on 15 campus and community radio stations from Newfoundland to British Columbia. Vitayu, welcome. My name is Stefan Andrusiak, and this is episode 160. In October of 2017, an article appeared by immigration lawyer Andy Semotyuk in Forbes magazine, the online edition. Andy writes, quote, "In the 1960s in Quebec, in French Canada, the quiet revolution of discontent resulted in the creation of the Royal Commission on Bilingualism and Biculturalism, otherwise known as the B&B Commission. The commission pointed out that the non-English, non-French in Canada were growing in significance. While bilingualism was true in Canada, multiculturalism was a better description of Canadian reality." On October the 8th, 1971, Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau announced the federal government's new program of multiculturalism within a bilingual framework. In the 1970s, when discussions turned to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 27 recognized the multicultural reality of Canada. Multiculturalism was thereby made part of the constitutional character of Canada. End of quote. For 45 years in the city of Oshawa, they have been celebrating multiculturalism, and today it is still called Fiesta Week. At 1:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, which is halfway through Fiesta Week, multiculturalism sounds like this. So are these frozen?
Yes, vareniki.
So how many in a bag?
20 dozen. 20 dozen in a bag.
So that's what 20 dozen frozen varenika sound being put down on a trolley.
Like that.
5 large bags, each containing 20 dozen frozen pierogies, are being dropped off at the Ukrainian Odessa Pavilion at the Legion Hall on Simcoe Street. Many Ukrainians prefer to call pierogies vareniki. Now, I'm no linguist, but vareni means that they are cooked. So, tonight when the doors open, the frozen pierogies will be vareni, and they will become vareniki, cooked delights. More delightful still, perhaps, for festival goers who are lined up to sample vareniki is this little-known fact. The person in charge of the kitchen here at the Odessa Pavilion of Fiesta Week, well, she isn't Ukrainian at all. And that, my dear listeners, is multiculturalism. You're getting an early start?
I am. I have to come in early and start boiling the water for the vareniki and prep everything for the cooks.
Дорослий і малий в Україні знає, без вареничків смачних свята не буває. Ой, вареники у сметані, ой, вареники запашні духмяні, ой, вареники у сметані, ой, вареники.
Hi, my name is Ruta Jurkavicius, and I'm a member of St. John the Baptist Orthodox Church here in Oshawa. I am part of the council there, and we're very proud to sponsor this pavilion this year.
Now, you're not at the church, you're in Legion.
Yes, we've rented the Legion this year because our hall was demolished a couple of years ago. We are rebuilding this year, and a groundbreaking ceremony happened last month, and all the dignitaries were there. They also visited us last night, which was very nice, and supported us. And so hopefully next year we'll be making the perohe over there.
But for this year, you're in a Legion.
We are in the Legion, and they've been so gracious. This is branch 43, and they've been very, very helpful in helping us set up and graciously open the doors when we need and let us in whenever we want.
Can you tell me a little bit about your early years and your background, your cultural background?
So actually, I'm not Ukrainian. I'm Lithuanian, but I joined the parish because it's such an inclusive group of people, and we're all Orthodox. So that's the glue that keeps us together.
How did your family find its way to Oshawa?
My family came from Lithuania after the Second World War into Montreal, actually. I came to Toronto because of work and my husband, and so we started going to other churches that were in Toronto Central. It was just too far for us, and then Father Nicholas suggested we visit this parish because they're bilingual also, because I do not speak Ukrainian, although I sing in the Ukrainian choir, so that's sort of funny. And so we found this parish, and they were so inclusive that we stayed. My boys are both altar boys there. We've been there for the past 7 years or so.
So you and your partner are both of Lithuanian origin?
No, I'm a Lithuanian, 100% Lithuanian, first generation. My husband is Russian, partly Ukrainian, but that's the great-grandfather, and then he has some Serbian and some, also a little bit of Lithuanian, and I'm going to say Yugoslavian. So, but he's Russian speaking, yeah.
How does that work? How is it that you can feel welcomed and enveloped?
The thing that keeps us all together in this community is that we all worship together, and we all know that God is not Lithuanian or Ukrainian or Russian, so it's a universal sort of feeling. It's very welcoming. I was born and raised in Montreal, part of the Lithuanian community, very, very active there. It was difficult for me to move to Toronto, but we're glad we did.
I didn't know that the Lithuanian community was Orthodox. I thought that there were other religions in that land.
They're primarily Roman Catholic, which I was, and I converted to Orthodoxy in my 20s. My mother always said, as long as you believe, you choose the way you believe in Christ. And when I married Misha, my husband, we firmly believe that to have a cohesive family, we should have one platform of worship. And so I felt very comfortable in the church. It's very, very, very extremely similar, the liturgy and everything. And so it was a no-brainer. I felt at home.
Have you always been involved in this fiesta celebration? It's in its 45th year.
It's been 45 years, yes. My boys only started dancing 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, and that's when I became active in it. Before that, I was not. It's a funny story. When Ilya, my eldest, and Ramas, my youngest, Ilya is going to be 18, and Ramas is going to be 16 soon. At first, I wanted them to become active in something. Ilya doesn't like team sports or anything, so I gave him a choice. Either you go swimming or you start folk dancing. I used to folk dance in Lithuanian folk dance ensembles, and I know how rich it is. And so Ilya went, and he loved it. And he just couldn't, he's amazing. He's not just because of my son, but he's amazing. And then Ramas, I had to pull him and drag him by his hair to at least try once. And he was very, very adamant that I was not going to force him to do this. Halfway through the practice, he asked me if he could buy a sweatshirt. Sometimes parents know best, because I know when I was folk dancing how great and the opportunities that opened up. I actually went and I danced with Montreal Lithuanian folk dance into London, England when I was 15, and we performed there. And we did road trips all through the United States, through Philadelphia and all these places, like on the bus, and people would take us into their homes, into Lithuanian communities, and do all that kind of stuff that I would not have been able to do. And it didn't take very long. And it's a great group of kids. They're all really good friends, and they all live separately. And so this brings them together, and they have all different. And I have to say that the majority of them are actually not Ukrainian. So I love to sing. I used to always sing in the Lithuanian choir as well in church and other places. So when I joined the choir, people said, "Oh, Ruta, you must be Ukrainian." I said, "No, Ruta is a very Lithuanian name. It can't be Ukrainian." And then one of my colleagues in the choir handed me a music sheet, Chervonia Ruta.
Chervona Ruta.
Chervonia. So that was really weird that Ruta is also a Ukrainian name that I didn't know.
And what kind of a flower is it?
It's for Lithuanians, it's akin to like the maple leaf for Canada. It's very symbolic, and it's a green leaf. In English, it's called rue, R-U-E. So it's a green, very bushy sort of plant with little yellow flowers everywhere. So there's no red involved. So I don't know where they got that song from, but I think it's about a girl who has red hair.
A 10-minute walk from the Legion will bring you to Lviv Boulevard. Now, you know with a name like Lviv, there's going to be something Ukrainian about that street. And indeed there is. There stands St. George's Ukrainian Catholic Church Hall. Inside the hall, lunch is over, but the takeout line is still quite active. A man is walking around the hall, among the tables gathering dishes and trays. It's all part of the duties of being parish president here.
Hi, my name is Walter Matichuk, and I'm the chairperson of St. George's Ukrainian Catholic Church here in Oshawa. The church is now about 65 years old. There used to be an old church here. Now there's a brand new one across the street. The hall we're in right now, it's probably around 30 years old.
This Fiesta Festival has been going on for 45 years. Have you been a part of that all that time?
Yes, I started off as probably one of the dancers, ended up being an instructor, and now I'm watching all these kids.
You talk about building a new hall, building a new church. Was this the profit center or part of it for being able to do that?
Oh, definitely. Like this week itself will bring enough money to probably hold it over for the next year as far as expenses goes. Okay, I'm going from last year. I think we're getting 500 people for lunch, about 500 people per show in evening, and we have 2 shows a night and evening.
So 1,500 a day over the period of how many days?
6 days.
Did your family come to Oshawa directly from Ukraine?
They didn't come from Ukraine. They came from Germany. I guess they came as displaced people from Germany. I was born in Germany. I was 4 years old when they came in. They were here in 1950.
And what does being president of a church council entail?
Everything. You just keep changing hats.
You've got 2 pavilions. Is Ukrainian life still, is it still at a boiling point, or and exciting and active?
Well, it's slowly. You know, the times have changed. There's so many options for our youth today. As when I was growing up, there's only I either go to a Ukrainian school or I either go to a Ukrainian youth organization. There wasn't much choice.
Do you have children?
Yes, I have 2 daughters. I have 3 grandchildren, 1 granddaughter and 2 grandsons.
So they're active in the dance group?
They're not active. They're in hockey. The boys are in hockey. My granddaughter was active in the dance group, but she is now going to college, so that sort of puts her out of the picture now.
Well, good luck. So what are your duties? I saw you cleaning up on cleanup squad. What are your duties for the rest of today?
Well, that's what I'm on the cleanup squad for today. Tomorrow I'm going to be the hostess, greeting all the guests that are coming in and taking them to the head table. And
a man of many talents.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for sitting down with me. I very much appreciate it.
Okay. You take care.
Nasha Kasha is a podcast you can subscribe for free at most podcast providers. This program comes to you from CHRW 94.9 FM, Radio Western, on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in St. Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UM-FM in Winnipeg, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM, the X in Kamloops, and on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, British Columbia. London, Ontario's Covent Garden Market was established in 1845. The square outside this market hosted this city's multicultural festival in early June of 2019. The Barvinok Ukrainian dancers pleased the crowd on a Sunday afternoon, and I spoke with the president of the London Multicultural Association about his work and his personal journey to London from Israel.
Could you self-introduce in 3, 2, 1?
Hello, my name is Jack Malkin, and I'm the president of the London Multicultural Community Association in London. So I was born in Israel. My mother was born in the Ukraine. My father was born in Latvia. My father was a Holocaust survivor, and they met each other in Israel after the war. So my upbringing was with a very strong influence of East European culture, but also the new culture that developed in Israel among new immigrants who came from 150 countries back to Israel. And the reason was that until 1948, there was no independent Jewish state, so they had to stay where they wanted, even though life was not good for them. As you know, Jews during the history in many countries were persecuted and discriminated against. So once the opportunity opened, millions of people literally came to Israel where they could live safely and freely as Jews. But because they lived in many countries, they brought with them the culture where they grew up. So you could see different cultures, even though all of them are the same origin and religion.
The goal was safety. Was it safe?
It was safer than in most of the countries where they lived, but unfortunately Israel in the beginning had to fight for its independence. In the first few years, there was a big fight with 7 Arab countries who wanted literally to annihilate Israel. And imagine most of the population of Israel at that time was comprised either from Holocaust survivors or refugees of Jews who came from Arab countries that were kicked out after the establishment of the State of Israel. So it was a very weak and both physically and mentally population that had to fight for its survival.
What was your schooling like, and what did you want to become?
For my parents, education was very important. And I knew, that's what I grew into it.
Brothers, sisters?
No, I'm an only child, so I got all the attention. And luckily I was, fortunate to get accepted to the university and study a few degrees. But education in Israel was very good because the culture was that education is important. And I think that the key is that if you live in a foreign country, if you're a minority, everybody can take your possessions, your properties, right? Education, nobody can take from you. So if you're educated, you have to run to another country, you can still take your education with you and start again with what you know. So I think maybe that's my explanation why education was so important in our culture.
Was conscription mandatory? Were you conscripted? Did you serve?
Oh yeah, mandatory. Army is mandatory in Israel because of the security situation.
Men and women?
Men and women both. After you finish high school, when you are 18, you enroll to the army. It's a minimum 3 years for boys and minimum 2 years for girls. Yeah, then you are released. Some of them chose the army as a career. So they stay for years until they retire, but most of the people are just happy to get released from the army and start with the normal life.
You didn't stay in Israel, you've moved on.
Yeah, so we moved on, and that's very interesting because, as I said, I'm first generation of a Holocaust survivor. But I think, and my wife is a daughter of people who had to flee from an Arab country as refugees.
Which country?
Libya, North Africa. But interestingly, very quickly Israel became a normal country. And when you look at the normal world, people immigrate from one country to another country on a regular basis, not only because of security issues or economic issues. Some people want to try different culture, they want to give their children an opportunity to live in different culture. So I think that Israel became a normal country, and you see people immigrating out of Israel or immigrating into Israel. And our personal decision was because of our personal reasons, but when you look at the bigger picture and you say, it's good that Israel became a normal country and people go whenever you want, wherever you want.
In the Israeli state, is it the mother who gives citizenship to the child, or is that just within the religion and culture, or do I have that wrong?
Yeah, no. So you know what you're talking about. So by religion, you're Jewish if your mother is Jewish, because everybody knows who the mother is, right? So if your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. This is different from the right to immigrate to Israel. Because as you may know, during the Second World War, when the Nazis killed on purpose the Jews, you were considered a Jew if one of your grandparents were Jewish. So you only need one grandparent to be Jewish in order to be sent to the concentration camps and death camps. So when Israel had to establish its citizenship law, they said, what the Nazis did, it's good for us, but in a positive way. So even if only one of your grandparents was Jewish, you will be entitled to immigrate to Israel. Now, so citizenship is one thing, but when you are immigrating to Israel, you are not considered Jewish by religion, but you are Jewish enough to get Israeli citizenship.
You left.
Yes, I left. It was a mutual decision of Becky, my wife, and myself. Our kids were little at that time. Our daughter was 12, our son was 11.
How did you meet, your wife and you?
So Becky, my wife, she's a pharmacist by education, but she was the chief pharmacist of a big health fund in Israel. That's an organization that provides health insurance and health services to its members. And I was hired to manage their chain of pharmacies, which they started to build. And we worked room by room. She was the professional, I was the administrator. And the rumor is that she knew from day one that she's going to marry me, but it took me a few months to realize it myself. So it was kind of a classic workplace romance.
And why Canada?
There are not many opportunities of countries that accept you legally, right? I mean, you can go illegally to many countries, but there are very few. I mean, United States, you can immigrate legally. At that time, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK started the program. But Canada, we felt, first of all, they have a very good immigration system, right? So they scrutinize you. You cannot immigrate. It's not easy to immigrate to Canada. It took us more than a year to get our paperwork and to get all the, approvals that we needed from, like a health check and a police check and everything. But Canada has always had a reputation of a great country with very nice people, very friendly people. And we thought that for a family with little kids who moved to a different culture, the Canadian culture would be good for us. And I'm happy to say that we were not proven wrong. The impression on Canada that we had before became reality.
You have a boy and a girl?
We have a boy and a girl, yeah. Our daughter is Mai, she's 27, our son is 26, and our son is Itai. So they have spent in Canada more years than before Canada.
How did you get involved in multiculturalism?
So Judaism, generally speaking, is a very embracing religion. People who just came from different countries and different cultures, different languages, different food. So I think it's kind of in us to embrace somebody who speaks differently or has a different accent or looks differently. So for us to move to Canada and see diversity, people from different countries, was not a strange thing. But I never got involved in it until 2010, after the earthquake in Haiti. A few leaders in London from different ethnic groups gathered together and we decided to do something because they were in a really bad condition, bad situation. So we decided to do a multicultural concert, relief concert. And this was the first time that I realized how diversified London is, because you had singers and dancers and instrument players for dozens of different communities in London. So for me, it was a good lesson, even though I knew how diversified Canada and London is. And we didn't get big donations. Most of our donations were $5 or $10. These were people who really want to help, even though they don't have enough money for themselves. So this was like a big lesson to me. And then we did a few other relief concerts for Japan and to fight the famine in the Horn of Africa. And we decided to incorporate, because we saw that we were working very well together as leaders from different ethnic groups. We wanted to incorporate and do things in a more, constructed way. You go to the GTA, you have hundreds of thousands of people from different communities, so they're strong enough to do their own events. They have their own political voice if they need. In London, its community is small, so only by working together we can have a voice for the ethnic communities and the immigrants in London.
What kind of things do you use that voice for?
So what we decided to do is be active and be positive. So, for example, there are many other organizations who I really respect, for example, who fight racism or discrimination, which is important. As I said, my family suffered from racism, and it's an important thing to do. But we decide, instead of fighting, let's bring people together. Whether we celebrate together, we eat together, we do projects together. Just by doing things together, we get to know each other, regardless of how we look or how we speak. At the end of the day, we find out that we are the same people and very similar, and we have similar goals. And to me, that's a great way, additional way, to overcome differences.
Diversity, multiculturalism, is there a difference?
Diversity is more than multiculturalism, because diversity can refer to gender, to religion, and so on. When we talk about multiculturalism, we probably talk about origins or ethnic, where the people came from. Our organization is non-religious and non-partisan. So, for example, if the same country, which today is a country, may have different cultures within this country, and it happens a lot, we will entertain each group separately because they have different cultures. They may even speak a different language in the same country, because, as you know, boundaries of many countries were decided arbitrarily by the colonialist empires at that time. So country and culture is not necessarily identical. So this is why we are called multicultural and not diversity or multi-religion or multi-faith, because we focus on the culture. We want to celebrate what unites us, and there is more that unites us than separates us. And we want to work on it. We want to embrace multiculturalism. We want to give each group the opportunity to showcase the heritage and culture and celebrate it together.
Earlier in the program, you heard the song Vareniki by the group Spivohrai from Bila Tsarkva in Ukraine. Also, the karaoke version of the song Chervona Ruta, which was followed by a segment of Rushnichok singing that very same song. It's from the album Rushnichok Volume 1. And now you're listening to Kasha Nasha playing the melody Carpathian Carnival. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusiak, and I do gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha comes from the Taras Shevchenko Foundation and the Ukrainian Credit Union. I'll be back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.